Okay, guys, let's get started. Just a quick little note that the exam is coming up 2 weeks from today, the first exam, and I will post a review sheet probably on Monday or Tuesday of next week, so more than a week in advance of the exam. Again, if you're a DSP student, I feel like I've heard from everyone, but if there's someone out there who has not had a letter sent to me yet, you truly need to get to me ASAP because they require 2 weeks advance notice for getting DSP proctoring services. Okay? There will be a review session. I don't know where yet, but there will be a review session on Tuesday, the night before the exam, late afternoon, 4:30 to 5:30. So you should write that now if you can. Reserve 4:30 to 5:30 review session, the late afternoon before the exam. 2 of the GSIs at least will be there, ready to answer your questions. There's going to be a question-answer based review session. So if you want to put that in your calendars now. Questions about anything? Okay, wonderful. We were talking on Monday about the effects of schemas, this construct, also known as, if you've taken cognitive psychology, schemas are also sometimes termed categories, concepts, mental representations. I'm using sort of an old school traditional term, which is the term schema. We started talking about the different effects they have. Intuitively, we know what they are. We're breaking them down and getting a lot more concrete, talking about how they influence what you notice and what you remember. They're like these kind of selective nets that capture information out there. We talked about how they help you fill in the gaps about people, make inferences, go beyond the actual information or data you're given about people. And we ended on Monday's lecture talking about how there's a lot of ambiguous information out there, especially when it comes to social stimuli and social situations. And schemas are pre-existing knowledge that we carry around with us. Colors are interpretations. Nudges us toward one kind of interpretation over another. Okay? And I gave the example of the sexual harassment or illicit affair with the professor versus the athletic standards and so forth examples, and how bringing those two different kinds of schemas in mind really changed your understanding of that particular situation, the doctor's visit, going to lecture, being nervous about the professor, and so forth. Okay? We're going to move on to the last effect of schemas that I want to talk about, and that's that schemas, okay, and this has to do with that functionality idea I told you about when we first introduced schemas, that schemas are functional. They help us process, take in, make sense of all the information we're bombarded with in our everyday lives, and relate to that, or very much aligned with that, is schemas speed up our processing. They enable us to take information out there and make sense of it quicker, information that's relevant to our schemas. Right? If you don't have a schema, the idea is it's going to take you a lot more effort and time to sort of sort through each individual piece of data and somehow make sense of it. If you have a well-elaborated schema about something, it not only allows you to fill in the gaps and disambiguate information, it allows you to do that quicker. Okay? It allows you to do these sorts of things quickly, to process information relevant to the schemas quickly. I'm going to give you an empirical example of this as well. This was a study done by Hazel Marcus, again, back in the 1970s. So this is really classic social cognition type research. In the study, she actually recruited 3 different groups of participants based on their responses to a pre-screening type questionnaire. One group of participants she called people who have independent self-schemas. That is, they view themselves as very independent individuals. Okay, they fill out a questionnaire that assess how independent or dependent people saw themselves, and these people scored pretty highly on seeing themselves as independent, and on feeling that that was a pretty self-defining trait characteristic of theirs. We had another group of participants who rated themselves as very dependent. Okay, this is a very self-defining element for them. And then she recruited a group of participants who didn't particularly see themselves as very independent or dependent. Do you need something? Do you need a seat, or do you need something? Okay, come, don't be shy. Somebody let her in. Okay, so these people rate themselves rather moderately, not extremely on independence or dependence. We've got 3 different groups of people who basically see themselves in different ways, and these are important aspects of their self-concept. So what's the part about speeding up processing? What did she do to them? She presented participants with a list of independent-related and dependent-related behaviors. So for example, behaviors suggesting assertive kinds of behavior that are associated with being independent, not going with the group, saying that you want to see this movie instead of that movie, going to a restaurant alone, and so forth, or dependent kind of behaviors, sort of waiting for what other people decide, conforming, always needing to go with a friend somewhere, and so forth. So participants are seeing a list one at a time of these independent or dependent-related behaviors. And they're asked to judge for each one if that trait, if that behavior is actually, it was traits related to independence or dependence, it doesn't matter, okay? They're asked to indicate whether each of those things they're presented with is descriptive of themselves or not. Very simple task. That's me, that's not me, me, not me, not me, not me, me. They're getting shown these series of traits related to dependence and independence. Unbeknownst to participants, the speed with which they're making these me, not me judgments is being recorded. Okay, because they're interested in speed of processing. Does having a well-elaborated schema for independence influence your ability to make me, not me judgments? The speed, the ease with which you're able to make these judgments, also dependent-related self-schemas. The reasoning is that if you're somebody who sees yourself as really independent, that means you've thought a lot about yourself along the independence dimension. You've judged yourself and your behaviors a lot with regard to being independent. The idea is that you should have a lot of facility in making judgments about independent-related traits. And yeah, that's me, I can say so quickly, because I've given a lot of thought to this. I've got a lot of data stored up in memory that says that I'm independent. Conversely, for those who are dependent, a lot of data, a lot of practice thinking about, man, I'm dependent. So I should be able to make me, not me judgments very quickly on dependence-related adjectives, dependence-related traits. No particular advantage for the aschematic participants, because their schemas about being dependent and independent, they don't have self-schemas like that. They haven't thought a lot, practiced a lot about thinking about themselves along those dimensions. So here's what the data look like, consistent with the idea that schemas help speed up processing. Quite sensibly, participants who saw themselves as very independent, of course they said the independent traits, they're more likely to say the independent traits describe themselves, hit the me button, than the dependent traits. That's obvious, they said that they were independent, but they did so more quickly as well. Okay, this is being measured unbeknownst to participants. They're able to make the me, not me judgment quicker. For the dependent self-schematic participants, the reverse was true. They were able to make judgments for dependent traits quicker than judgments for independent traits. And of course they said me more to the dependent traits than the independent traits. That's not that interesting, that's not that surprising. It's the speed that was the focus of this study. And then, of course, aschematics, those who don't really think of themselves along this dimension at all, they didn't show any particular processing speed advantage for the dependent versus independent traits. They responded to those traits at a relatively similar rate and slower than their counterparts that were independent or dependent. You with me? Can you give me an everyday example of how a schema you have helps you process information quicker than, let's say, somebody else who maybe doesn't have as elaborate a schema? Yeah, great. Yeah, and it's fast for you, right? Quick judgment. Where somebody who maybe doesn't, have clear sense of what their dietary philosophy is, they're probably sitting there at the cereal aisle for a longer time. What should I do? What should I do? Another example. It doesn't need to be a self-schema example. It could be a schema about something out there in the world, about other people. Yeah, great. Okay, but here's what I add to your example there. So just say you're walking at night and you see something kind of scary, like someone carrying a weapon. Yeah, that's bad, and you get scared, you have a particular reaction. But the sort of example to add, or the element to add to that is that somebody growing up in a neighborhood who's very used to that probably has a much more elaborate schema about situations like that and maybe quicker to respond. Whereas someone growing up in La La Land, where everything's safe, people keep the doors unlocked, la 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 la, they're walking around, they're like, huh, what's he carrying over there? Okay, not as quick to process information. The difference hopefully is milliseconds, but you get the point here. Yeah. 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 That's a great example. She's got a schema for what that means, and a particular reaction. She's used to it and not reacting the same way. Whereas others who don't grow up with these sirens all the time are unable to make sense of the situation. What's going on? What's going on? Okay, she was able to process it. Okay, there's a situation going on here. Okay, great example. What else? One more. We're on a roll here. Yeah. That is an awesome example. They're all awesome examples, but that's an awesome different example. Okay, her schema is about how to handle animals, about maybe diagnosing symptoms and what they mean in animals, just like a human doctor. They're much more elaborate than the average person. So she's able to process that information. The watery crusty eye, bam, I think that means that. Where somebody who doesn't have elaborate schema, who doesn't know how to interpret the behaviors of a particular animal or human, is going to take a lot longer to process. Okay, so it's speed of processing. Now, some of you may be thinking, on one hand, that's great, so long as your judgments are accurate, right? But of course, we know sometimes you can be quick to judge, and that's a good thing sometimes about schemas, actually a lot of times. But if your judgments are wrong or the information stored in your schemas is inaccurate, if not prejudicial, then we've got problems, and we'll get to that in a moment. Is that a question? No, that's putting on a jacket. Okay, let's move on. We have our 4 vector schemas. Okay. I hope you're getting a really clear sense now of just how often schemas are influencing the information. What am I doing? Where are you? Wait there, yes, what's up? Louder.
Okay, so my question was about the schemas. So that applies to human behavior as well.
Is it Apple?
Like if you were in a household where like every time you did something wrong, your dad would yell at you. In that like outside world, if you were interacting with someone and messed up, you would expect her to yell at you and get scared, or is that different concept?
No, what do you guys think? Yeah, it's similar. I mean, we're going to talk about that particular example is a little bit near to my heart because it's about the schemas you have about relationships, your models about what relationships are like with close others. And there are those of us, actually all of us, learn through our relationships with our family or our caregivers certain kinds of patterns of interactions. We develop expectations, just like we expect fellow Cal students to be studious, competitive, what have you. We expect significant others, close relational partners, to yell at us, to support us, to be there for us, to neglect us, what have you. And like all other schematic knowledge, we carry that with us. And it could influence our expectations in the next context, in the next relationship, for better or worse. And that's why when you grow up and have these sort of negative relationship models, it makes you more inclined, perhaps, to see negativity out there that does not exist, okay? Because it's coloring your interpretations of ambiguous information. Your best friend or your new boyfriend didn't call you when he said he would. How are you going to interpret that ambiguous information, okay? If you grew up with positive relationship experiences, that's the knowledge you're carrying around to bring to bear on interpreting this behavior. If you grew up being rejected a lot, that's the schematic knowledge you're bringing to interpreting this information, okay? Yes, wonderful example, and we will talk more about that also specifically when we talk about close relationships. Okay, all this talk about schemas, you guys, wow, they're like influencing us all the time, whoa. Okay, but we've got so many of them, okay? What determines which ones we use at a given moment in time? Which one wins? We have so many. Why does this one win the race and get to shape my interpretations of information versus one of the other millions of pieces of knowledge I've stored up in memory? Okay, let's try to do a little demonstration to get at this question of when and which schemas are used at a given moment in time. I want right and left-hand sides again. We're going to participate one at a time. This is my right, my left. Lefties, can you close your eyes? Righties, I want you to, just kidding, everyone open your eyes a second. Everyone open your eyes a second. I'm going to divide the auditorium into right and left groups. Everyone is going to engage in 2 tasks. You're going to do the first task one at a time, and then you do, no, you can do, yes, one at a time, and then you're going to do the second task all together. Now, left-hand side, close your eyes. Right-hand side, here's your first task. No talking, here we go. Create sentences for each set of words. Left-hand side, bear with us. Okay, right-hand side. Right-hand side, close your eyes. Left-hand side, open your eyes and participate in your first task. Right side, close eyes. Please create a sentence, 3 of them, 1 for each out of each set of words. Okay, everybody open your eyes. Let us all engage in what's known as an impression formation task. I'm going to read you or give you some information about this girl named Sue and then ask you some questions about her personality. Sue and I are college students at Cal. One day we arranged to meet in front of the library. It was very sunny that morning as I slowly walked up to the library. I could recognize Sue from far away because I saw her blue jacket. We decided to go to a nearby cafe to study. I was surprised to see Professor Jones approach us on our way to the cafe. He stopped to talk to us briefly. He mentioned how high the quality of Sue's paper was. Sue told him that she has always tended to get better grades on her papers than her classmates. In fact, as long as I've known Sue, her papers have always been outstanding. Finally, we went to the cafe where we studied for a few hours. Now, I want you to answer the following questions. Would you say that Sue is a secure person? Likely she is, maybe not so sure, unlikely she is. Please commit to an answer. Yeah, I think she is, maybe, no, I don't think she is. Is Sue a neat person, a neat and tidy person? I guess she is likely, not sure, maybe, but go either way, unlikely that she's a neat or tidy person. And finally, is Sue an arrogant person? Likely, maybe, or unlikely? Okay, let's look at the data here. How many of you said likely to if Sue is a secure person? Raise your hands high. Okay, a little more on that side, but that's bad, isn't it? No, that's good, okay, hold on. This could be actually the first time it looks decent. Okay, there was more on that side, just go with me, okay? Is Sue a neat person? Oh, likely? How many of you said likely? Okay, still a little more on this side, fascinating. Okay, is Sue an arrogant person? How many said likely? What the heck? Oh, man, Failed again, failed again. Okay, what am I trying to go for here? Here's what happened in this experiment, which is a replication of an actual experiment adapted somewhat. Everybody did unscramble the sentence task initially, but for the right side of the room, the word self-confident was embedded in there. I was trying to bring to mind your schemas, your notions of what self-confident means. You guys over here got the middle sentence with the word conceited in there, me wanting to bring to mind notions, schemas related to conceited. And then everybody rated Sue. So, what I assumed, what you should be wondering right now is, and probably can realize, is that what the heck did the first task have to do with the second task? Well, as we've been talking about, you're going to, implicitly, what influences your judgment in a given moment is what is on the top of your mind, okay, what we call accessible, ready to go. It's in working memory for those of you that has some meaning, okay, short-term working memory. Whatever's in short-term working memory on the train platform, ready to go, that's what's most likely to capture information out there, shape ambiguous interpretation, speed up processing, allow you to fill in the gaps. In the first part of the demonstration, I made an assumption, okay, by doing this demonstration in this class, which didn't work, and I'll explain more in a second. I made the assumption that everybody in this room has schemas about self-confidence and conceitedness. A pretty safe assumption, I think, but I assumed that. Then I made you engage in an initial task, which again was meant to bring to mind different self-schemas, different schemas on the two different sides of the room. And then I showed you a description of Sue, which unbeknownst to you was specifically crafted and pre-tested to be ambiguous with regard to whether Sue is a conceited or just a very self-confident person. Meaning that pre-test participants sort of rated her in the middle. It could go either way. Okay, and I wanted to push you, nudge you in different ways on the different sides of the room. And then I tried to assess whether you, in fact, did use your schemas to disambiguate that information. What I wanted to see was that more people on this side of the room who saw self-confident would say she's secure, and more people on this side of the room who saw arrogant or conceited would say she's arrogant or whatever. Okay, I think you get the picture. I didn't really expect any differences across the sides of the room for the neatness judgments because I didn't really provide you with any information to bring to mind neatness and not neatness related ideas, nor was there anything, at least intentionally, in the description about Sue that had to do with neatness. Now, in retrospect, I can imagine that some people might have ideas that people who are really good at school, arrogant or not, are probably also really organized and neat, and maybe some of you made inferences because neatness, you guys are nodding, is related to your ideas about doing well in school. That's possible. But you can see how neatness is not necessarily or clearly related to self-confidence. There's a lot of self-confident people out there who are not particularly neat or arrogant. Okay, I meant that to be separate from that. Now, if you notice here, I've sort of red fonted and bolded three different words there: availability, accessibility, and applicability. Those are the three principles that determine when and which schemas are used at a given moment in a given situation. Let's define them more explicitly. This is the easiest one. Availability. It's so easy that we as researchers just assume it to be the case. Availability simply refers to whether you've got the schema I'm trying to bring to mind in mind at all. Okay, you guys all know what self-confident and conceited mean. I made that assumption. You have in your mind, it's available, those constructs, those ideas. You have schemas for these traits dimensions. I made that assumption. Schemas can only be used if they exist. Okay, if I had a group of second graders here and I tried to bring to mind conceitedness ideas, I would fail even more miserably than I failed already. Okay, because presumably most of those second graders don't have conceited schemas available in memory. So we've got a ton of schemas available in memory, which allows me to make pretty safe assumptions about what you guys are likely to have up here that I could try to bring to mind, try to bring into working memory. Accessibility, the second A or principle I want to talk about. Accessibility refers to the extent to which a schema is on people's minds. Last lecture and this lecture, I keep saying in colloquial terms, oh, I'm trying to put it on top of your minds. Okay, what I really want to say, okay, but it's jargony, is that I'm making schemas accessible. I'm activating them, bringing them to mind. Okay, the more accessible a schema, the more likely it's in short-term working memory, the more likely it's going to be used in those various ways. It's more likely it's going to shape your cognizing about the world. And what makes a schema accessible? Thinking about it in some way. Making you think about it by having you unscramble a sentence. I made you think about the notion of conceited for a second. I made you think about self-confident for a second, because the only way to unscramble that sentence is to sort of understand and think about, at least for a moment, the notion of self-confidence or conceited. Now, there are two different ways, though, that a schema can be accessible. And this is really important and interesting. Okay? There's temporary, momentary, situational sources of bringing to mind a schema. We call this priming. You've heard that term before. You're priming people, you're getting them ready. It's a temporary source of accessibility. It's accessibility, activation, that arises due to some kind of recent event in the environment. Flashing you subliminal images of Asian faces temporarily brings to mind, primes your stereotype about Asians. Showing you conceited in that unscrambled sentence task, temporarily, it primed, momentarily brought your self-confident or conceited schemas into working memory, to the top of the bin, ready to go. Okay? This contrasts with chronic sources of accessibility. For some of us out there, maybe, notions about self-confidence and conceited are always at the top of our minds. I'm always judging the world in terms of how conceited or self-confident they are. It's always hanging out in working memory. I'm always judging people that way. I happen to be one of those people. Most of us probably, it's not on the top of our minds. So for most of us, presumably, self-conceited and self-confident and conceited are not chronically accessible schemas. Can you give me some plausible examples of what are likely to be chronically accessible schemas? Ones that we frequently thought about, okay, therefore, is chronically ready to go. Right? The more you think about something, the more it's on the top of the mind all the time. What are some bundles of knowledge schema we're likely to have on the top of our minds all the time? I would argue that gender is something we likely have on the top of our minds all the time. Okay, so fluid are we that we don't even realize we've categorized